Thank you, Lani. And thanks for having me today. What a lovely group you have here at this hour, which is very late for me. And good to have an opportunity to join you anyway. Good to see again many of you. And I would actually like to start today and watch what happens in your minds and in your bodies when I say that. I would like to go back to zazen with you for just a very few minutes. Please just find your posture again and go to zazen. And while you arrive there, bring awareness to what that means for you actually. What happens? What do you do when you go to zazen? What is that for you? What is in your attention and the focus? How much control do you have over your attention? How is your posture? What are your own rules for your posture or your preferences there? How alert are you? How open is your mind? How open are your senses right now? And you apply some influence on that. Is there an intention what it should be like? Are you more focused on something or abiding in open awareness? Is there a deep samadhi or are thoughts chasing each other? What is it like to sit in zazen right now for you? What is it like? And finally, how content are you? How happy are you with your zazen today and in general? And then already I thank you and invite you to come gently back, all the while watching what is that coming out of zazen? What happens there? What is that? What changes? And then I ask you to keep a little bit in mind what your thoughts were. You don't need to share them at all. Just keep that in mind, and I'll I'll share my screen now. I hope that works. Can you see this? So this is the beginning, the first verse of the famous verses on the faith mind, which is possibly or quite likely the oldest existing Zen text that we have. And it says, "The great way is not difficult for those who hold no preferences. When longing and aversion are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised." So this text is truly old, very old. What is everyone celebrating these days? 250 years? Is that it? In a couple of days? So let's think of Master Dogen. When he was born more than 800 years ago, is that right? In the deep Middle Ages? Then at that time, for all we know, this text was something like 600 years already old at that time. So Dogen looked back in a similar way to that text, and the masters, or let's say the ancestors that wrote this text, as we look back at Dogen, roughly speaking, right? And the text is called Faith Mind, verses or inscription on the faith mind, or the faith in the mind, or the mind of faith, or any of those will probably do. And I wonder, what does that mean? What do you think? Is anyone there? Do you have any idea what might that mean? Why is the faith mind so important here? How is faith mind, faith in the mind? How does that play into Zen? Does anyone want to share their thoughts? Just speak up. Don't wait.
It's
Kelly, yeah, please.
faith in my own practice.
Yeah, great. Yes. Faith in your own practice? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there have been many attempts to look at the meaning of that, and one that comes up regularly in literature is quite close to, Kelly, what you're offering, which is to say that mind is basically zazen. And zazen is basically the insight into oneness, into non-duality, into emptiness of all things. So basically, faith in the mind is faith in emptiness and in our own praxis. Exactly. There's a second potential meaning. It's just me thinking about this text that I sometimes like to think of, which is when the supposed author, and we don't really know, we don't even know when the text exactly was written, and there's probably scientific doubt that Sun Tzu, the third ancestor, actually was the author. Anyway, legend has it that he wrote this text, and when he came to his teacher, Huike, he was very ill. He was very sick, and it was likely that he would die from his illness. And he said to his teacher, "Heal me from my guilt." That's how I read that. Assuming that sickness comes from guilt is Yeah, is a consequence of guilt. Heal me from my guilt, so that I may be healed from my sickness. And the teacher Huike, he said, "Well, bring me that guilt. Show me that guilt that you carry, and then I can heal it." So Sensan went and looked for that guilt, and he came back and said, "I cannot find it. I cannot find it." And so he was told, "Well, then you shall be healed if there is no guilt, actually." And he was healed. So that's the story of this first encounter between teacher and student. And I think if there's any kind of a true core to that story, whatever it may be exactly like, that self-healing act requires a huge amount of faith, right? Doesn't it also somehow make sense that faith may have played this role in the biography of the supposed author somehow, that this plays there a role, faith, as at the center of the awakening experience of that person that wrote the text. Anyway, if we and there may be yet another meaning that we can find, and I would like to start and open it up again and ask you, what do you think, or what does it bring up for you, means this first verse? The great way is not difficult. It's not difficult. It's not difficult like we thought maybe. If you do not hold preferences. So if any longing and all aversion are absent, only that is needed, and then everything becomes clear. And what is meant here in the context of the great way, I think we can assume is an awakening, right? An awakening to ultimate reality. How does that feel for you? What might that mean?
Which German word do
And
you use for faith there? I said, which German word do you
oh,
use for faith? Vertrauen or
it is
Glauben?
Glauben
Glauben.
typically.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it can be Vertrauen, yes, yeah, depending. So there are numberless translations into English, and there is a handful or two in German, and not all of them are the same. But yeah, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
translation speak
For
yes.
me, faith is more in the line of trust.
Right. All right.
It could be confidence,
Yeah,
more in the line of trust. But I come from a lot of evangelical background, so it can mean a lot of things over here.
for sure. For sure, I agree. Yeah. So and then if you take it to the first line, if you do not hold preferences, if you drop aversion and longing, then everything becomes clear. Russell, does that resonate for you? Can you agree, or what does it bring up? What comes up for you?
They simply disappear. They're not present. Neither are present. When pure presence is there, then neither the aversion or preferences are there. It's just
Oh,
this right here.
yeah.
It's
Pure presence.
pure presence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's presence not as a noun. That's presence as verb. Presence is
Oh,
verbing.
to presence. Yeah. Okay. To do presence. All right.
Not to do presence. It's a little different
Or,
than that, but
okay.
language is limiting, unfortunately.
For
So
sure. Yeah. Important point, right? Yeah.
correct.
All right.
Hi,
It's
this is Gokyo. And
Yeah, please.
hi, Nikolai. So I think if you look at it like no as absolute no, so if there's no preferences, there's nothing to lose, nothing to defend, no need for
Hmm.
story. So very present.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, huh? Thank you. And Kelly, were you speaking up too at the same time?
it's that presence without thought, without getting into our own head as to what we describe
Hmm.
things as. It's just that actual being present without any judgment, or influence into what it actually is, just letting it be what it is.
Yeah. Letting it be what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, for me, easier said than done. Anyway, I don't know what it's like for you. And we're thinking about it right now and talking about it, which is fine. And I want to continue that just a little bit and ask you, can you think of any preferences that you're not ready to let go? Or is that easy for you? What might be a preference that you feel, I don't want to let go of that so easily?
Comfort.
Comfort, yeah, sure, of course. What would that mean, right? To not prefer comfort over discomfort.
Right.
What else could it be? Yeah. Say again, please. Was there another one? No, not yet. How about war and peace for you? No problem? Or does anyone have a preference for peace here?
I definitely have a preference for peace.
Thank you so much. I do too.
Justice.
Justice. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Equality.
What else? What else? Yeah, equality. That's not so easy to drop that preference, right? So there would at least some of you agree there's a kind of threshold to drop preferences? How
It
about
would
health and sickness? Yeah, please go.
I was going to say it would be
Mm.
very difficult to function in the world with zero preferences
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
way, because we encounter things that require us to make choices every day.
For sure, right? Yeah, to make choices, to take decisions, to act.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that I prefer health to illness.
Yes, I do too, actually. Karen, that was Karen, right? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So could we say there is a kind of a moral, or if you will, ethical threshold to just say, sure, if the text says that, I'll drop all preferences? Could you? Yeah. So
Yeah.
are you? Yeah. Please go,
My name's Mike or Nyojo,
Michael.
and
Yeah.
I've always struggled with this one because I kind of understand what they're saying. It's not difficult, just don't hold any opinions.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like kind of hearing someone say, well, ignorance is bliss. It's also really hard to return to ignorance after a certain point in your life. Um, so I kind of hear it as like, we, you know, it, it we should, like, where possible, we shouldn't cling to as much stuff as we can, but we can't help but to cling to some stuff in life. I prefer peace over war and justice over dishonor, and I'd rather not have to put my cat down in a month. But these are all things that have to happen. And the the I guess, like, the part that hurts so much is the clinging to the idea that it should be something else.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
You know.
And from all I hear now, it's not only that we cannot just easily drop those preferences. I think for many of them, it will be easy to say, I don't want to drop it, right? It's not like we easily agree to do that. At least for me, there's something like an inner conflict, right? There's a part of me that says, no, that's wrong to drop those preferences that we named.
Well, and
then, yeah, Kelly.
And some of them we shouldn't. I mean, we have precepts to hold.
Oh, there you go. Now that's there too, right? Yeah. So there's in Zen only one way to use such a thing here, which is to bring it to practice, right? We can talk about it all day or write books about it. Ultimately, and we heard one proposal, which is already, I thought, pointing pretty much to practice, which is to be in pure presence. There's also, for me, it's easier said than done again, and yet already it points somehow in that direction. And what I want to propose to you is to actually bring it to practice. And how might we do that if there are these thresholds, if there is this doubt that it's all right to do that? I propose that we do two limits of this act to drop preferences. One is we do it only for something like 5 minutes and not longer. So surely that should be more safe, right? To say, let's drop preferences, but only for a couple of minutes, then we go safely back to all our preferences that we hold dear. And the other limitation that I recommend to start with is that we say we limit the sphere of the preferences that we drop to our meditation. We don't go so far right away and say, well, war and peace and health and sickness and all of that. Let's just see, can I drop all the preferences that I have towards how my meditation should be and how I should be in meditation? And we do that for 5 minutes right now. The only moment when you couldn't do practice in Zen is right now, right? We will not wait for the right moment to come, because there's only this one moment. So I invite you to go again into zazen, and now remember a little bit, what was it for you? And I'm sure it's quite different for many of you, what came up a couple of minutes ago. And let's go back to zazen with this intention. And you might already do that when you go into zazen. In this case, I ask you, take it one small step further, and let's just sit there with absolutely no preferences of how that should be. Am I awake? Am I falling asleep? Fine. Either is equally fine. Am I very focused or very widely open? All of that is fine. Are there thoughts or no thoughts? All of that is equally fine. We will not make any judgment. We'll not prefer either. So let's do that and go back to zazen for just a moment. See how that goes. So if I do not need experience to be in any specific way whatsoever, if you do not need yourself to be in any specific way, then how are you experiencing qualities in the senses right now, including the thought space? kind of a mind is that? That holds no preferences. What kind of a mind? What mindset? And finally, who are you? When you don't hold any preference, who are you? What is left of you? All right, thank you. I ask you to come back. If there is such a thing as coming back out of the Zen. And I ask you to share a little bit if you like. What was that like? What is coming up?
I'm happy to share. It's Karen again.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So my experience was one of a real peace, and in my body and in my heart and in my mind.
Beautiful.
It was that it was like they were set free to just be, however they were, and with whatever they needed or wanted to do, and without judgment. I mean, at one point, I just, gave a nice tilt to my head. It was like I didn't have the constraint of, well, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't move. It was very nice to have the freedom to just give my body and my mind whatever it was needing at the time. Yeah, I felt I felt very much like a bird out of a cage. That I was just able to be free. It was
That
lovely.
is Yeah, that is so beautiful, Karen. Like a bird out of the cage.
Yeah.
Look at that. And I heard you say set free
Mm-hmm.
and at peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Hmm. Yeah, it's very similar for me. Yeah. What else is there?
I'll jump in also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Paul.
very similar experience. It was immediately freeing. And
Hmm.
the phrase, your face before your parents were born, I think that's how it goes, that sense of tapping into something before thoughts, before judgments, before any of that. It's just
Yeah.
being able to tap into, just for a few minutes, that complete awareness, no blemishes, no prejudices, just awareness.
Thank you, Paul. What is there to be added after that, huh?
Well, for me, it usually pops
Yeah.
as a very neutral feel. It's
Mhm.
there's no wants. There's this content part to it.
Yeah.
It's just quite neutral. It can pop as
Neutral.
peace. Yes, it's very neutral.
Mhm. Yeah. Neutral and yet content is a quality there.
No wants.
No wants. Hmm.
Wants.
Yeah.
Just content.
Sounds like other words for peaceful.
That could be.
Would that resonate? Or, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
certainly. Certainly.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Hmm. Can you see how different that experience is over everything we thought and said about it when we start to discuss it? And how immediately it has such a strong effect? And now from here, I will not do that today. And yet I propose that if you think about it just for a moment, what happens if we lift the limits to drop expectations, drop judgment, drop preferences towards our meditation? Can we apply that? And that is another word that came up for me, this curiosity, that not knowing curiosity, just letting happen, not grasp anything that happens and just let experience flow by without interfering in any way. Can we apply that to our whole practice? What is my practice like if I don't have preferences? If I drop the idea that I want it to be in some way? What is truly behind it? What is truly what I want to reach? Is there something I want out of it? Or is it true to say there's nothing I want out of it? What can we discover there if judgment is gone? And then if you go further, can you observe your relationships in life without preferences, without judging? Can you look at your life? Can you look at your whole life? Preparing to drop all preferences and actually look at it? Can you feel how far that goes and how radical that is? And if you feel a little bit like me, I would even say there's not only a threshold, there's even a kind of fear barrier to go beyond that. Does that resonate at all? To say what is there if I drop what my mind does with things? It feels to me like I'm losing a kind of protection. It resonates for me when Karen said it's so free. It's like a bird out of the cage, and yet on the threshold of that, it feels to me like I'm losing a protection, and I have this feeling that holding preference does much more than express a feeling tone, express an intention to rather want more or rather want less, or to go away or towards something. I think that preference actually shapes experience. Is it not a little bit like we can make things less bad by saying that we don't agree with them? You know, this awful thing happened, but I never said I agree with it. I never said it's all right. So I'm kind of fine with that because I withhold my agreement with reality. It can kind of separate me from the fact that things are bad. Does that make sense? I think there's a quality of shaping reality by withdrawing my agreement in the form of holding a preference, of holding a judgment, that kind of protects me from the full extent of that reality. So if I drop all that protection, there is this question, who am I on the other side? If I actually drop my preference and watch reality, what will I be? What will the world be like if I do that? I think we get with that idea expressed here in this first line very quickly, very close to that threshold where it feels like everything is different behind that. And so I want to summarize that what I find here, I think in two things. One is this instruction that we read here, if we read it as an instruction for practice and not as a philosophical thesis to be discussed. The great way is not difficult for those who hold no preferences. When longing and aversion are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. That is an enormously powerful magic to do that. It's very dangerous and very radical. And in a way that shows how zazen, and that is zazen, to sit there and for a while and in the safe space of the cushion for a limited amount of time. I think that's how we can look at meditation. That this form of zazen can bring us to a border that is very transformative. And we are not sure anymore what happens if we cross it. And that's the second point I want to make. That is the third meaning that I find in the faith mind, in the faith in the mind, or the mind of faith, which is if I actually go there and if I take that leap, if I try to take that leap beyond my own preferences, is it not so that everything that is left for me is faith, because I don't know what I will be and what the world will be if I drop all of that? So faith that it will be safe on the other side, and that it is morally and ethically is all right to go there. All I can take is faith, because I don't know at all what is there on the other side. And so the faith mind for me is the mind that takes the courage to actually go beyond that threshold in zazen. Because there may be no one left on the other side. And there may be a whole other world. So let's keep that in mind for our practice of zazen. And that's what I want to share with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And back to Lani with that.